Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike Piroworski, coming to you live from the East Coast, the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most. Here on the Rundown, 2A Views, conservative news. And Craig, guess what day it is?
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's hump day.
Hump day!
It's hump day.
Hump day!
Woo woo! That's right, folks. It is Hump Day. It is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as I always like to say, the fun is in the trying.
That's it. It's also pre-storm day here again. Another little one of them tropical disturbances rolling through Florida, so we get a bonus day off, and which is good because there was some other stuff I've been watching on the news all day, Craig. I don't know about you.
Yeah. There's that thing that we've been talking about, which we will be getting into relatively shortly. But before we do, let's go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yep, let's say hey to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net, hitmanindustries.net. If you got yourself an AR in the past couple of years, you probably have one of their barrels and don't even know it. Well, now you could buy direct from them for your next AR build, or, change out the barrel in your current rifle. That's hitmanindustries.net. Let's say hello to our good friends at the California Republican Assembly. I can't wait to hear from you, Craig, on how they did today with their predictions. That's the California Republican Assembly. And then, of course, if you want some awesome tactical gear, some combat gear, go to uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. These are the folks who bring us to you. So do us a favor. Please go to them. All you got to do is follow the links to their websites in the description to this program. Check them out. If you like what you see, spend a little money with them. Let them know that the guys over at the Rundown sent you. Also, if you haven't already done so, please make sure like, share, subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube or on Facebook, make sure you hit that notification button so you'll be notified as soon as we go live. You can participate in the live chat as the program is taking place. Also, let your friends know there's tons of different places to either watch or to listen to the program. Let them know however you want to partake. Just once again, just make sure that you actually partake. Just saying.
Yep.
Oh, so Mike, the big red wave. How'd the big red wave go for you out there in Florida?
Well, obviously Florida did well. Did what it needed to do. I do want to discuss numbers with you in theory. Listen, I'm a math brain guy, folks. I'm one of those weird close your eyes and see math like the Matrix kind of people. If I move the camera around, you'd see nothing but notes with hand scribbled numbers and snapshots and screenshots of everything that's gone on, because I'm looking at trends, statistics, numbers. Just it's what I do. But county by county, state by state, looking at the past couple elections and everything, and I can tell you that Florida did as predicted. Might have even gone a point or two further than that, but. And we, as soon as that happens, you figure that's the way the rest of the country goes. The rest of the country usually trends along with Florida, at least when it comes to turnout numbers, turnout percentages.
Right.
And it's amazing in some of the states, we did not see that. But Craig, what's really got me concerned in some of the states, some of the key states, here we are, depending on which states, 20 to 24 hours later, some of those states are still reporting only 60 and 70% of the ballots counted, which is absolutely unacceptable. And it's just, ripe for corruption. I'm not saying, I'm not an election denier, not saying that or anything like that. I'm just saying there's no reason in the world that these numbers shouldn't be reported in by a couple hours after everybody ends their election cycle.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I actually posted the same exact thing earlier today. I was like, is this what we call progress, where we used to be able to, we all went on the same day and voted, and we knew what by that night we knew what the outcome of the election is. So now here we are. We're starting the election like a month early, a month before election day, and then on the night of election, they're saying that it may be weeks before we know the actual outcomes of some of these elections. I'm finding that incredibly hard to believe that is what we call progress, because in my opinion, all that does is create skepticism in the process.
Again, yeah, ripe for corruption, Craig.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, and here's how it works. Listen, you put a race in a dead heat, or you put one candidate, the candidate you want a few votes ahead, and lock it at 60 or 70%, and leave it there for a couple of weeks. Well, now it's implanted in people's head that this is the result,
Right.
and they're going to be much easier to accept it. It's how you work. It's how the counterintelligence community works. By the way, looking at some of these right here, Craig, Arizona. 66% reporting in.
Well, let's go to. Well, actually, let's do this. Let's go to this page. Okay, so this is the live election results according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, according to them, based on what we know so far, you've got 49 seats in the Senate have gone to Republicans and 48 to the Democrats. But right now, it's looking like a net loss for Republicans of 1 seat. That's as of right now. And then 1 seat gained by the Democrats, obviously. And then when you move over there to the House, 182 seats. Democrats have lost 8 seats, and obviously then Republicans have gained 9. Now, technically, Republicans have not won the House yet. Although, according to numbers, they're projecting that Republicans are eventually, because when you look at the ones where they're still counting or that are still close enough, Republicans are leading in those particular districts. So they're projecting that Republicans are going to win the House, and that they're not quite sure what's going to happen there in the Senate, because. And if you look over here, going back over to the Senate, you have this race right here in Nevada. Nevada has been going back and forth between, depending on the count, I'm sorry, I'm looking the wrong way. It's been going back and forth between Republican or Democrat. Right now, it's looking like Laxalt is going to win. The Republican is going to win that Senate seat. So what that means is, in order for Republicans to get a majority in the House, they're going to either need to win Arizona, which right now that is looking highly unlikely, or they're going to have to win Georgia, which right now they've already predicted that is going to be a runoff. That's why that's that little purple thingy right there. They're saying that's going to be a runoff, which will take place next month, because in their state, someone has to get 50% or they have to get a majority of the votes. Now, Mike, it wasn't the red wave that we wanted. I mean, historically what happens is, in the midterm election, the party that's out of power during the first term, usually that party wins. On average, they win 20 seats. And in the House, and 2 seats in the Senate. Doesn't look like we're going to get that much, but then again, it may be enough of a wave for us to still take control of both houses of Congress.
Well, here I'll tell you. Listen, we're going to get 2 more seats in the Senate. We're going to get Nevada, and then Georgia will end up going to Walker. Once you eliminate that third-party candidate, it was a 2%. They collected 2% there in the Libertarian Party, and that will easily slide over to the Republican Party, and that'll make up that half-point difference there. So that'll be a month from now when they run that off. And Nevada, I've been watching those, checking out those numbers, watching those trends, checking them county by county, historical for all the past couple of elections. That's going to continue to be Laxalt winning in Nevada. So we're gonna be at 51. Arizona is still at 60-something% though, Craig. So there's the opportunity there. That switches back, because that one did jump back and forth a couple of times. What's got me concerned with them, though, is the percentage down to the 100th of a percent point has not changed, yet the ballots counted keeps changing. So I don't know what Arizona's doing there, but it does not appear to be an accurate reflection of reality. How about that? Can we say that at this point? Somebody needs to get off their bums there and fix this problem. It's been fixed in many states, and we've had no issues in the states that it's been fixed. The irregularities from the last election. So, we'll see. We'll continue to play it out. I am firm in my belief that both houses will be red by the time they are sworn in.
Well, Mike, what's interesting also about that is that the person who runs the elections there in Arizona is a Democrat and is on the ballot and is running for governor. It's kind of interesting, and I made this point to somebody, that the person who's winning is also the person who's counting the ballots.
Yeah, even the Scooby-Doo kids would call that a whodunit. What's going on? All right.
Ruh-roh.
Yep, exactly right. Yep.
But now let me ask you this, Mike. It wasn't the red wave that was predicted. It's still, once again, it's a win, but it's kind of like, it's kind of like Georgia going into a community college, projected to win by 50 and only winning by 5 or winning by 2 points. It's a win, and a win is a win, but why do you think it was not as big as we thought it would be?
Well, I do think it was as big. The red wave was as big. When you go and look at numbers in traditional blue states and look at the difference in the numbers that the Republicans added, in some places 10 and 20% more than they have over the past couple of election cycles, it was a red wave, Craig. When we get down to the final, a popular vote here, you're going to see the Republican turnout was much higher than the results are indicating. Again, it's kind of like you have there, Craig, in California. You're always going to California. There's always going to be blue, but when you get 10 more points out of the red, that's a huge turnout for them.
Right. But I'm talking about, when I talk about a red wave, I'm not just talking about voter turnout. I'm talking about in terms of results in elections where, there were people who were projecting that we were going to be somewhere around, 230 some people said 240 up to 240 seats in Congress. There were people who were projecting that we were going to have somewhere around 53 to 54 seats in the Senate, and that just didn't happen. Once again, and in fact, we have underperformed what normally would happen in the first midterm elections, in particular under a president who is as unpopular as this one is. In the middle of record inflation, record high gas prices, crime going through the roof, a porous southern border. There's a lot that you would think that would have gotten people to show up, or at least would have gotten us some votes from independent voters that just didn't seem to manifest.
Well, Craig, I'll tell you what, my predictions were, let me see, I got them here, to 244 Republicans in the House, 53 Republicans in the Senate, and that the governor race would fold at 30 to 20. And we're not far off. I still think the 244 is possible in the House. Obviously, 53 is now looking more like 51 or 52 in the Senate. And the governor's races was only off by 1 or 2 as well. And we still got a couple of those we're watching out there that are too close. And then, of course, all of a sudden, they get locked at 60%. So I think it's it's not over. It might not be a red wave today. It might be red flooding over the next couple of weeks.
I hope that's the case. I honestly do hope that's the case. But like I said, for me, it's one of those things where it's not the victory we would have wanted, but it's a victory nonetheless. And in the end, we are going to be controlling at a minimum one House of Congress, and I definitely believe we are going to be controlling the Senate. If not after this election, most definitely after the special election that is supposedly supposed to take place there in Georgia.
Yep, agreed. And like I said, I've got confidence there in Georgia. So we'll be again. I say Nevada's a lock and Georgia's a lock, and we'll see how Arizona plays out.
All right, so do us a favor now, because obviously being from the state of Florida, I want to give you the pleasure of reporting on the Florida landslide, the landslide that is Captain Florida and the victory dance that they are doing there in that great state.
Well, let's be clear too. What Florida did was maintain what we already had. We went into it no losses. Obviously, we increased the numbers of the turnout, and that's what it was. We saw the Republican turnout to be much higher than it was before. I think we talked about this the other day, how our early ballots normally always favor Democrat. I think there were 4 million of those cast, and it was over 300,000 that went towards lean towards the Republican votes. And then the Hispanic vote, and I'm going to give that credit to Puerto Rico. Like I said many times before, Puerto Rico is traditionally they call themselves Democrats. Well, their version of Democrats in Puerto Rico is nothing like we have Democrats here in the States. So when they came here to Florida and to register to vote, they actually ended up being Republican, and that was again something of the upwards of 200 to 400,000 people that they say direct and indirect came from Puerto Rico. So there's your difference right there. There's where it came from. And then of course we talked about African Americans voting that way as well. Their numbers raising. We're still waiting to see what those percentages are when our Department of State breaks that out and gives it to us. But we did talk about polls also and how polls lie. Well, the predominant poll, the average poll showed that Governor DeSantis would win on a tight margin, and that Marco Rubio held that DeSantis had a 4-point lead over Crist, and that Rubio had a tight margin with Congresswoman Demings. And it turned out to be just about a 20 point swing for both of them, with a couple of hair percentage points away, 20 points over. It was a resounding Republican turnout here in the state that sent the losers packing. Let's call them that.
Well, and it's funny because here in California we had the exact opposite. I don't know what turnout exactly still right now looks like, but right now we actually had a candidate, Lan Hee Chen, who was running for controller, who's a Republican, and he was endorsed by every major publication, every major newspaper predicted that he was. I mean, they not predicted, they recommended him. They were like, look, California is in bad shape right now. We need someone who's gonna at least hold people accountable for the fiscal condition of the state. And he's going down to a person who's filed bankruptcy, who's had liens put on their property. I mean, this person can't even handle their own personal finances, let alone hold the rest of the state accountable for how they manage how the state handles their finances. It's not looking good in most cases for Republicans in the state of California. They once again didn't win one of the statewide offices. At least right now, that's the way the numbers are trending. Obviously, they can turn around. In some cases, it's close enough where they can do that. But it actually sets it out, because you also had our governor who was favored to win. But I think it almost sets up for potentially a DeSantis versus Newsom face-off for a presidential run should Donald Trump not decide or change his mind about getting in. And by the way, there has been a lot of conversation about whether or not, based on the election results, whether or not Donald Trump should actually run or not.
Yeah, listen, and here's the reason he should run. When you look at the numbers with Donald Trump, he still has a quite impressive lead over DeSantis. And when you pull Trump out of it, obviously DeSantis comes into the lead. Here's why Trump should run. Trump can only have one more term. All right. Him having one more term means that DeSantis just has to wait 4 more years longer. It means he gets to be governor here a little bit longer. He's not going to diminish. His numbers are only going to continue to gain. Why restrict this country to perhaps just 2 terms of DeSantis before a turnover again instead of 1 Trump term and 2 DeSantis terms? Why take 4 years away from the GOP? And I think DeSantis is smart enough to realize that nothing's going to happen except him strengthening here, waiting for Trump to do his 4 years and then depart.
Well, I think the reason why is people are questioning whether or not Trump was a drag on the ticket. I'm not saying he was. I'm just saying that's the question that's out there. And quite frankly, with his resounding success there in Florida, one might say that he could potentially be the front runner for the GOP nomination. I don't think he is, but his stock has definitely increased in that particular case.
Yeah, again, I think, and we'll talk about it in 2 years from now, right? Or whenever it's going to happen, that DeSantis does not run for president. But if Donald Trump gets the nomination and reaches down and offers him the vice president position, I think he would go. But I don't see Trump or DeSantis even entering the presidential race this term.
Yeah, and if I were him, I don't know that I would accept. I would accept the vice presidential because I think he benefits from being governor. Right, he benefits from the platform that he has being governor, and then once he's no longer governor, then he's got 2 years to campaign for president.
Sure, but think of the Trump DeSantis super ticket. Think what that does. That's no matter which side of that house you're on, you've got them both now, and that DeSantis will take over in 4 years. It's a win-win.
I just don't think DeSantis. I don't think DeSantis adds to Donald Trump. In other words, people aren't going to vote. There's nobody who's going to vote for Donald Trump who wouldn't have voted who will vote for him because DeSantis is on the ticket, who wouldn't have voted for Donald Trump before as the nominee.
I disagree. I think all of the TDS people vote if DeSantis is on the ticket.
All of the what?
All of those that suffer from Trump derangement syndrome that won't vote for Trump. If DeSantis is on the ticket, I think you get all those votes back.
I don't know. I'm not convinced, but you very well may be right. You very well may be right. Chad Hendricks from Facebook commented. He said, "Red states got redder, blue states got bluer. This country is incredibly divided. Democrats are okay with communism. Republicans stand staunchly against their values." I don't know that all Republicans stand staunchly against their values, and I think that's the reason why you have the MAGA wing of the party, because they're tired of many of the establishment Republicans who won't stand firmly against the Democrats and their values, and are willing to compromise. When I say compromise, I mean they're willing to sell out in order to be popular with some Democrat voters. So
yeah,
I hear you, Chad,
like
but I kind of disagree with you on that one.
Chad sounds like a smart guy. I will say that the red states definitely got redder, and I'll say that the blue states got redder also. You go back and look at those margins. Look what happened to Zeldin in New York. You got a 4.5 point spread there. That the last time that a Republican candidate came within 20 points there was like 30 years ago. Look what happened in Pennsylvania with that Senate race. That was ridiculous as well. Of course, that was DNC tactics there. They waited until well past the absentee ballots had started rolling in before they put him up in front of the first audience with the debate. So, and that's your difference maker there. But many of the blue states got a lot redder. Look what's going on in Oregon right now with the governor's race.
Yeah, no,
many states.
They definitely got redder. I don't know that they were enough to get. Well, who knows? Like I said, in many of these states, they're still counting ballots. So we don't know. We may not know. Now, if you go based on the trends or how things are trending, then their argument is that, well, we already know what most of those elections are. But once again,
right. And let me say this when I say trends, and I mean comparing the current county by county statistics and percentages over the last several elections, and you could tell which way it's going to go. If one was going 3%, 5%, whatever it happens to be, that trend will be the same. It's all a matter of the statistics, and it's simple to track if you know what you're looking for.
Right. Well, and it's also looking at how are those numbers trending? What counties are still to come in? The direction that they're generally, and the directions that they're generally going. And by the way, that leads us to the next thing, which is Florida, Nevada, and Arizona. Now, and I think you made a great point. Number one, in Nevada, we have 77% reporting, and it seems like every time they come out with more numbers, it seems like Laxalt is extending his lead. He's still not quite at 50%, but he doesn't have to be. He's at 49.88%. When I checked it earlier today, he was at 49.15. So I think that's definitely going to be a win for Republicans. Arizona, with only 67% reporting, and then you had the issues that they had there in their most populous county. It's going to be real interesting to see how that particular race turns out.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, watching them all, we'll see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're going to see a lot of. There's still a lot more to come. It's not going to be, like I said, a giant wave, but the floodwaters are going to continue to rise.
As I am hoping that is definitely in fact the case. And by the way, that kind of brings me to our next one. In the state of Pennsylvania, I just have to ask, what are you people doing over there? What is going on there in the state of Pennsylvania? For those of you who do not know, John Fetterman appears to be, at this point right now, looking like he is going to be the senator representing the state of Pennsylvania. Now, I just find it incredibly weird because remember, this is a guy who got up on a debate stage, and it was basically a national debate, and demonstrated that he is wholly unfit, that he cannot put a string of sentences together in order to be able to communicate what it is that he needs to communicate on behalf of the voters there of Pennsylvania. But at least there's one thing that you can say about him. He's alive, kind of. Well, that's not so for all of the Democrats who got elected in Pennsylvania. You had an instance, and this was reported by Breitbart, you had an instance where a state Democrat representative died a month ago, and it was too early in order to have his name removed from the ballot. And instead of either not voting or not voting for the person, the voters of Pennsylvania, or at least the voters of that district, Mike, decided that they were going to elect a dead man to office.
Yeah, listen, the Fetterman Oz race was a well publicized race. This one down ballot vote for the dead guy who was elected is a lot like what you had there in California. Craig, you had some really great candidates. You had some good folks on the ticket. But when you get down ballot there, nobody knows their names. Nobody knows who they are. Once you get past the first two, you're voting for the letter next to the name, not the name itself. Let's face it. There's less than 10% of us out there that look at this stuff and care. Otherwise, they're going in to vote for, the top two and that's it. And maybe some sort of local city or county issue that they want to vote on. But that's it. The dead guy, a lot of people, Craig, that was probably one of those Bodie McBoatface, kind of votes. Hey, this would be funny if we elect a dead guy. Let's do that because we don't care about this race anyway.
Well, I think what it is, and the guy's name was Anthony DeLuca. He was 85 years old. He was the longest serving member of the Pennsylvania legislature. And I think what happened was people were just so used to voting for him. His name was on the ballot.
Well, right.
Vote for him.
Because they don't pay attention to politics. They don't even know he's not in the race anymore.
Right. Exactly. And because they voted for him, they figured, well, I vote in D all the way. So let me make sure and plug in the D for the Senate.
Exactly.
Kind of sad. But those are the states of politics, folks. And that kind of leads us into today's parting shots. We're going to start with the good news. We're going to start with Governor Ron DeSantis and his electoral victory. I think this kind of sums up exactly how he's kind of sporting the state of Florida there. Good job, Captain Florida. Congratulations, and thank you for having some very, very long coattails. And,
He's the
and by
man.
the way, Marco Rubio, thank Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, absolutely, because people turned out because of Rockstar DeSantis.
Exactly. Now, in the meantime, they're in the state of Pennsylvania. Well, they elected another celebrity. Hey, wait, that doesn't look like John. Well, it kind of looks like John Fetterman, but not.
That's Fetterman. Hey, at least the president will have somebody to talk to now.
Oh, there you go. Well, the one difference is that this guy has the hair on his head instead of on his chin.
There you go.
That's how I noticed the difference. That's how I noticed the difference between them. Yep. And now this last one. Well, this is in response to a piece that we reported on last week, and it was where the folks at the Atlantic, one of the commentators or writers over there at the Atlantic, was talking about how, now that we're past COVID, we need to forgive each other and we need to move on, and we need to accept we need to apologize and accept the apologies of each other, for all of the mean things that were said and done, all because we were scared of COVID. And they called for amnesty, right? And if you read this one, it's funny because it points out, it says, oh, gee, turns out they weren't actually witches. And then and for those of you who are listening, you have these women tied up and they set them on fire. In the second picture, they're totally ablaze, and it says mistakes were made on both sides. Yeah, that's how we feel when you start talking to us about forgiving. And like I said, we've got a lot of issues. We've dealt with a lot of stuff. We lost a YouTube channel because, for reporting things that we now know are truthful, that were facts, things that we now know are facts. And I don't lament it, but we're not the only ones who have been persecuted for telling the truth.
Hey, it's the dirty little lie, right? Here I am unjabbed, and I'm fine. We're all still fine.
Funny how that works. All right,
Yep.
It's about that time. Why don't we go ahead and give a quick shout out to our sponsors before we go?
Again, let's say good day to our good friends over at the Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net, hitmanindustries.net. They've got rifle and pistol caliber, rifle and pistol length barrels. Make sure you reach out to them, hitmanindustries.net. The California Republican Assembly did their due diligence. It just, it's just tough when you got idiots voting. And then, of course, you've got our good friends with web gear, tactical gear, field gear at uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. Look, do us a favor, visit them, let them know that the guys over at the Rundown sent you. With that, we're going to call it a day. Not an election. It ain't over yet, folks. Come to realize there's no such thing as election day. There's an election period. And until there's a period on this election, we're holding out hope that we will take control of both houses of Congress. And hopefully the red ripple will be enough. On that note, thank you so very much for tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program, encouraging your friends to do the same. We will see you tomorrow on Thirsty Thursday. Peace out.